live from Radio Days Europe here in Athens, Greece. It's Tom Watts for Radio Express. I'm joined by one of the people behind the whole thing. Is that fair to say, Nick?
Well, I play a little role. It's team effort.
He's underplaying it. Nik Goodman, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey Tom, how you doing?
I'm really well.
Good.
How are you? It's the final day of the conference.
It is. The voice is a little husky. You know, I've got kind of day 3 voice or whatever. So the sparkling dulcet tones are not quite there. But it's been fantastic. It's been really good. We've had a really good conference so far. Some amazing speakers. For me, it all kicked off on Sunday with the programming summit, which I was given a room to curate for the whole day, and I thought, well, who can I invite along? So we had some great people there. Alid Hayden-Jones, head of Radio 1, Helen Thomas, head of Radio 2, so we got the BBC kind of covered off.
Big hitters.
Dennis Clark from iHeart. We did a talent Q&A, which was great fun. And Ben Cooper came along to talk about his work at Bauer and Radio 1 and give us a kind of big picture type thing. So programming summit was great. And then on Monday, I had a... It sounds like I've done a lot, doesn't it? There are other people at this conference, you know.
This
maybe
is the B-side to the Craig David hit, yeah.
Slightly overexposed. But anyway, Scott Mills. So I did a one-on-one with Scott Mills, which was great. He's obviously fabulous. So it was great to have him over. And apologies to the UK for borrowing your breakfast show for a day. And then loads of other stuff as well. So, you know.
How is that sort of like setting up with a blank piece of paper to begin with, going, right, who do I want to get? Is it a lot of yeses, a lot of how do we make this work? Give us an insight into that if you can.
Great question. So for the overview of the conference, we've obviously got to touch on the topics that are hot now. So lots of people want to talk about AI's influence on radio. So finding the hot topics, where's podcasting going, all those kind of things. But for someone who's attending their first radio days, they might want some of those evergreen topics. So I did a session called How to Get Your Breakfast Show to #1 and Keep It There with Matty Valk from Q Music in the Netherlands, #1 morning show host. So those kind of evergreen topics are always there. So we've got to get the mix right. We've got to have a little sprinkling of starter. So Jackie O from Khan and Jackie O, Scott Mills, get some talent over as well. And then if you dig into the program, you can find, a little bit more kind of niche areas and subjects. But sometimes they throw up some great surprises, and you find some brilliant speakers. So we try and please everyone if we can.
Well, I think I must admit this is my first Radio Days.
How are you finding it?
I've loved it, genuinely.
It's like the Glastonbury for radio fans, isn't it?
Well, I sort of didn't know what to expect, but I mean, it seems silly because when you put so many people in one space together whose passion is all aligned, of course it's going to be a wonderful experience. But I think I'm right in saying that this is one of the busiest Radio Days.
Absolutely, yeah. I think there's over 1,600 people from about 60 different countries all around the world, and I'm meeting people from Hong Kong and Oman and the boss of the radio station in Gibraltar and all that kind of stuff, as well as a lot of my clients are here as well from my consultancy business across Europe. So yeah, it's a good old gathering, meeting old friends, meeting new friends too.
It's interesting. You mentioned the consultancy stuff, which is something that really interests me because I must admit I hear of Nick's a consultant, and I'm like, what does that mean? And maybe some of our viewers are the same. Like, what does your work as a consultant? I imagine it looks different.
Yeah, I mean,
projects,
it depends on the radio station. It depends on their requirements. Often, I do a lot of work with talent. So sitting down with morning shows, working out what the best way forward is, spending a lot of time making talent feel good about what they're doing, and sometimes they want someone from outside. You get a better view of the game if you're not on the pitch kind of thing. And so often I come in, assess what's going on, talk to them about it. How can we make it better? What are the things that are working really well that we could reinforce and maximize? So kind of like a talent whisperer maybe in the background, something like that.
I love that though, because I love getting like feedback from as many different places as possible. Because, we're all wanting to improve and work on our game, right? That sounds really exciting. Is there anything that's like surprised you coming out of the conference this year round? Anything that's taken you aback a little bit?
I mean, anything that's surprised me.
Putting you on the spot.
No, quite all right. Okay, I'll say this. I'm surprised that the level of passion and enthusiasm and energy is the way that it is in Europe. And I say that because I've been working quite a lot and talking to lots of radio stations in North America.
Okay.
And it's a very different atmosphere. And obviously, there's challenges in the industry in Europe as well. But in North America, there have been all sorts of layoffs and consolidation. Yes, we've had those in the UK, of course, but not to the extent that they have over there. And the atmosphere is surprisingly refreshing, if I can put it that way. It's really, really good. So the positivity about where we are with audio entertainment has exceeded my expectations. So it's a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, good, excellent. We're asking everyone who is speaking to here at Radio Express the thing that they're most excited about in terms of the general radio audio landscape, but also the thing that they're sort of most aware of and slightly more cautious of.
Okay.
So,
for me, I'm most excited about the development of niche stations. So I did a session yesterday called The Power of Passionate Niches. It's an area I'm fascinated by in terms of the fragmentation of mainstream audience and how that affects not only the radio industry, but the media industry and culture generally. I'm excited that we have business models which allow passionate niches to thrive. So that's something I've been keeping an eye on for quite a few years, and it's almost like come of age now, and we see brand extensions, niche radio stations, and the joy that those are bringing. People are finding those radio stations, which is obviously having a great effect on commercial radio listening, particularly in the UK. And I'm working with lots of my clients across Europe and developing strategies around that as well.
Because we've had a lot of, especially in the UK, as you say, sort of like decades stations, and then we've got musicals, and it seems to be getting more into stations that give different emotions.
Yeah, there's
that emotion.
Yeah, I mean, you can have mood-based, you can have genre-based, you can have era-based. I'm fascinated by how thin you can slice it.
Yeah.
So yesterday I was talking with Gary Steen from Bauer about Andy Bush's all-day indie disco, which started off as a kind of bank holiday thing, and then now he's got his own station, and that's great. And then, I'm really enjoying at the moment History 80s. Okay. So Kiss arguably was a niche when it launched. History, a niche of a niche. History 80s, a niche of a niche of a niche.
So true.
Right? So how thin can you slice the salami? So that's a fascinating topic, and I can. That's a whole other conversation, that one. We can talk about that for a long time. The thing I'm more kind of cautious about is, of course, the impact on AI and technology on the human side of the business. We make great radio and we have great audio businesses because of the people. And I've seen in businesses where loads of people have been stripped out for various different reasons previously, not necessarily to do with AI technology, and that has a real detrimental effect on the vibe of the business. And we're a vibes-based business, and having that removed from a business in a large way is concerning.
Yeah, for sure. It's reminiscent. It's reminiscent of the pandemic in some ways, like when everyone was working from home, and it was like sort of lost the atmosphere at times in the actual physical radio station.
Absolutely, we need people.
Exactly, yeah, and that collaboration and bringing people together.
Yeah.
Nick, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
If I was to ask you one more question, where do you want to take Radio Days Europe in the future? It might be too soon to ask you that on the last day of this year.
Physically or metaphorically?
Well, we're going to find out later.
Okay,
am I right?
We'll find out later where we're going next year. Let's keep going. Keep going. Let's celebrate audio and really have this as the high water mark where we go every year. We celebrate and also innovate, and that's what we want to do with Radio Days Europe.
I think everyone's coming away from the event excited, inspired.
I hope so.
Maybe rejuvenated.
Good, and a little hungover.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Nik Goodman, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching, and stay tuned to the stream for more conversations as interesting as this.